Hello and welcome back to the Nasty Metal production channel here at YouTube. And welcome to the very first contest entry of 2018. So, for this contest entry, I am entering smfcpthowdy's 1987 albums contest video. 1987 year in music subs contest video, which I'll definitely get to the whole deal of what the contest is and the whole rules and such. But I want to definitely take the time a little bit here and pretty much, well, congratulate smfcpthowdy on reaching 2,000 subscribers. Right on. So, back to it. The rules for this contest, well, it's of course all focused on the year 1987. And for here, you either can show 19 albums, 9 albums, or 7 albums. Knowing me, I'll be showing 19 albums, of course. And the kind of albums I'll be showing is usually metal. And also, for the most part, some of the albums I'll be showing here are known. Some of these are already known albums and stuff, and probably might have been shown here. But for the most part, pretty much everything here, though, there is definitely, knowing me, there's some obscure titles in here. So there is definitely no way that some of these albums I'm going to be showing will probably be shown by every person for this contest. So without further ado, let's get in. So for the 19th album here that I'm showing, or right here, I guess number 19, whatever. It's not going in any particular order, but again, just 19 albums. Again, is Adrienne, One Step in the Uncertain. Adrienne were a one and done German heavy metal band, releasing their only album in, of course, 1987. So, again, their only album here. The sound, primitive. It's primitive, speed, power metal. Very, somewhat at times close to like Running Wild, but for the most part, it's very American sounding to me, at least to these ears. Some of the, to me, almost reminds me a bit like Salem's Witch at times. And I think that, in a way, this is Germany's answer to probably Salem's Witch. Betray of King's record. So it's very similar to that one. Very raw, very just low budget, pretty much typical of that sort of underground, obscure cult metal sound. And it in a way, I like it. It's not going to be for everyone, but I dig the album. So, One Step in the Uncertain by Adrienne. Also, forgetting to even also mention that Adrienne also, for this particular, which is actually a reissue, there's no way I'm picking up an original vinyl pressing. There's no way in hell. Due to how much that record goes for, but it's like there's no way. So I'm sticking with the CD copy for now. And it's a good CD copy anyways to have, because it actually has a newer track from them that was recorded back in 2012, and it was a song written back in 1988. Good track, though, due to the production and everything of the whole rawness, it almost feels like very odd in some ways, because of its very cleaner sounding production, very modern, but still, good stuff, I like it. Coming up here is probably an album that might have been shown already, but who cares, is Triumph and Agony from Warlock. Another German here, but again, best known for singer Doral Pesch. One thing interesting about the sound, though, is actually it has a guitar player named Tommy Bolan, who, of course, is best known for playing in a band called Armed Forces. Probably the only American guitar player here on this album. He, of course, again, played in a band called Armed Forces, released an album, actually an EP. I think he might have been also on the second one. They changed the name to Armed Forces, or Armed Force. yeah, and released like the Heavy Artillery album, but they were best known for releasing that Let There Be Metal EP, which I do have myself, but again, good. Warlock, just solid, typical German metal. It's very, if I were to really kind of summon up their sound, it's pretty much kind of similar like Scorpions, or except singer Dora Pesch to me is like the female claws mine of Scorpions, but some of the sounds here and there is very acceptish. So it's good. I dig Warlock. Coming up with some more German metal. There's quite a bit of German metal here. I guess that makes me very similar to a guy like Metal Theologian, but the thing is, I love my German metal in a way. Some of my favorite types of metal, actually. So, without that, I can't help but show Execution Guaranteed from Rage. Probably definitely one of their best albums here. Cameo. Anyways, back to that. Again, Execution Guaranteed by Rage. Definitely one of their best albums here. Really dig this album. Just recently acquainted this like last year. Just solid German metal. Very more refined here. It's almost, I would say more on the power speed metal sort of sound. It's the guitar playing is very well executed. Singing and everything, it's just almost more American sounding here than really just in German. So it sounds a lot more cleaner in some ways, but it still has some of its rawness here and there, but it's a very refined metal album, and I just love it from start to finish. So Execution Guaranteed with Rage. Keeping up with the German metal again. This time to get some thrash. That's of course is Apocalyptic Nightmare by Necronomicon. Very similar to Destruction. That's all you probably need to know. Very raw. Again, just pure. It's definitely not something that is definitely for everyone, but for those that like raw, straight to the bone kind of thrash, this is definitely one who likes Destruction as well. It's a good album. I love this one. Probably my favorite Necronomicon album. I don't know, I always kind of found the first sound to be not nearly as good, or at least at the time I listened to it, it didn't nearly as click with me, but when I got the second one to really revisit them years back, yeah, my mind was completely changed. Fucking killer album. Again, giving us some thrash. This time, let's get some American thrash here. That's, of course, with Kubla Khan with their only album, Annihilation. Best known for having a guitar player... what's his name here? I always had a problem, like, getting his last name right. But, Greg Handovit, I think is the way to pronounce it, who is best known for being one of the very first guitar players from Megadeth. And this is very Megadeth sounding, very much similar, somewhere between those first three Megadeth albums, like Killing Is My Business, Peace Sells, Blues By, and of course, So Far So Good, So What. Just a bit raw, but again, this is very similar to kind of like that Bay Area speed thrash metal stuff of bands like, of course, like Metallica, Anthrax, Testament, stuff like that, or Death Angel. So, just a great album. They never released anything after this. So it would have been nice, at least, because they probably might have gotten a bit put on a bigger label, maybe. But because at the time that this was released, it didn't end up happening. It was on like New Renaissance Records. So originally, good album from Kubla Khan. All right, keeping up again with some more American thrash here. Definitely a somewhat more obscure one, but again, probably still somewhat known. That's of course is Blessed Death with their second album, Destined for Extinction, and Again, just like probably a bit raw, almost at times more on the Slayer side of things when it comes to this band. Just a really good album from in here. It's like if you just dig thrash metal, this is definitely one of those that definitely should be checked out for sure. Just, again, just killer American thrash metal here. That's all. That's all that needs to be said. Coming up here again, more German here. It's, of course, this Violent Force with their somewhat their only album, Malevolent Assault of Tomorrow. Again, very more similar to like Creator or Sodom than really something like Destruction. Still, just good stuff. I love the sound all the way through. Even the whole Motorhead feel of Dead City. Everything else just has more of a Creator, Sodom thrash metal feel, and I love this album. Just would love to actually get an actual vinyl pressing of this, but either way, I'm still sticking with the CD copy for a while. Still, just a killer album. Again, when I said that somewhat this is their only album, they did record a second album. However, that album remains unreleased to this day. All I have, though, is some raw, somewhat demo versions of what was supposed to have been their second album. And it sounded a little more refiner in this one, though still, just, to me, top-notch German thrash. And keeping up again with more German thrash is, of course, probably one of the more well-known bands, and definitely one that gets quite a bit of talk here in some ways here on the VC. That's, of course, is Exhume, with their second album, and for the time was their last album. Of course, is Rising from the Sea. This album always gets, and I think I've talked about this album many times, but to me, I think this is an underrated thrash metal album. Underrated as well, from all standpoints. It's like everyone's always like, oh yeah, Possessed by Eat Fire. That's a great album. Love that album. But this album, I think is just maybe a tad bit more refined. It's very more Exodus sounding than the debut, but this is still a great album. I love it all the way through. I don't need to talk anymore about it. Alright, next one here is, of course, Terror and Submission from Holy Terror, and Holy Terror, kind of almost on the cusp of being more thrash, but I always kind of found it to be a bit more bordering in between like that speed power metal sort of sound that you were kind of getting out of America, very similar to bands like Metal Church or Heretic or Lost Rocket. Another band that actually was shown by Scott Waters, and I love that album. I love that record. Anyways, this one, guitar player here is best known for playing an Agent Steel, and it's got that Agent Steel sound, and Terror and Submission sound like it could have been a follow-up to Skeptic's Apocalypse, but it's a lot more refiner again. That's why I think some of this is more similar to like Heretic and Metal Church, but still, it's a killer album. I love Terror and Submission by Holy Terror. Great album. Coming up, find some Canadian metal, but this time, again, this is a more almost definitely on the thrash side, but at times pushing it to be almost death metal. It's, of course, a Slaughter. Definitely not to be confused with the American one, with Mark Slaughter. However, just raw, dirgy thrash here. That's all that needs to be said. This band is somewhat also best known for having late Chuck Schuldiner, who was, of course, was from Death, once played in this band for a while, and he ended up leaving. And I don't know what was the deal, but for some reason it seems like that it almost pissed off the members, because there's a song on here called Fuck of Death, which I think almost in a way translates to Fuck Off Death. I think they kind of did not like how Death got, I guess, bigger or so, and basically got and how these guys were left in the dust when they were doing it just as early as even Death. So it's like, it's funny, it's humorous, but I don't know, I love this album here. It's just a great album. Back to some German thrash, this time with another favorite of mine. That's, of course, it's Assassin with their debut full-length album, which is the upcoming Terror, which I'll show the cover here. Because it's a 2D here, which is just... this, to me, is definitely similar like Violent Force. I think these guys, also shared a drummer, I think, with Violent Force, if I am correct. If not, I'm probably just spouting off or so. I don't know, most of the German thrash bands almost had a member or so that was in another band to some extent. So, yeah, I love Upcoming Terror. It's just, to me, is one of those great, definitely an underrated German thrash metal album. It's pretty much my one of my go-to for that kind of sound. Just straight in your face, brutal style of German thrash that I dig. Very similar to like Violent Force or Exhume or Necronomicon. Just great stuff. This next album here, if I'm gonna do albums for 1987, I can't help but show this one. There's no way I can't. This probably is a known one already. I think many of them might have been showed this. And of course, it's Abigail by King Diamond. I have to. Just re-listened to this one last night. It's a fucking killer record. Just, sure, the whole storyline and everything. It's King Diamond. If you were never a fan like Merciful Fate, or was never a fan of his vocal style to begin with, you're probably not going to get it. But however, when it comes to the guitar work here, being... pretty much I want to say it's Hank Sherman, or it's Mike. I can't seem to remember because I always seem to confuse the two. I want to say it's Michael Denner. Just great guitar work here, though, definitely. And of course, drummer Mickey D, drumming for the late Motorhead, and of course, even at one point playing for Don Dokken. And of course, now I think drumming for Scorpions and Black Star Riders. I think maybe. The guy's, ever since leaving Motorhead, he's now given a lot more opportunities to play in other bands now. Still, I don't need to say any much. It's a good album from King Diamond. This next one up here, I'm not sure if anyone else even shows this, but this is definitely a top new wave of British heavy metal band to me, one of my favorites. As of course is Tank, with the self-titled album from this year, and... usually it's not nearly considered as much of a classic than like albums like Filth Hands of Hades or Power of the Hunter, This Means War, or Honor and Blood, but I think it's just as good as like, it's very similar to like This Means War and Honor and Blood, but I think it's just as good as those two albums, though albeit more raw production than those two, but it's got some great tracks. I love Reign of Thunder, killer track to me, very less, it's less Motorhead sound. I think Tank just made their own sound. Starting with, like, This Means War, they really paved their own sound. Very, almost futuristic, but still keeping along with that war theme. Still, great stuff. Love Tank. Coming up, probably, though, a very known artist, but I doubt anyone will even be showing this record, or this album in general. Of course, it's Alice Cooper with Raise Your Fist and Yell. It's a personal favorite of mine. I would, personally, I'd rank this next to, like, Welcome to My Nightmare or Killer as some of my top favorite Alice Cooper albums. But I know everyone isn't. But, again, that's me personally. No one has to. Again, guitar player Kane Roberts and bass player Kip Winger here before Kip Winger left after this album to form Winger. Definitely probably the heaviest thing Kip Winger's ever done. And as far as Kane Roberts, the same could be said. It's very more 80s metal sounding, but I don't know. It's probably one of the main reasons why I also like this. And another reason is the fact that it's produced by Michael Wagner. Best producing albums for, like, except being like Balls to the Wall. Raven's All for One, and so on. Even Dokken, of course. So, just a personal favorite Alice Cooper album for me. I know I've been showing a lot of CDs, but I haven't yet gone to a vinyl. Well, it's time to change that. Probably one of my most favorite British thrash metal albums, and it's again from a one and done band. We got Wolfpack here with Total Head Removal, whatever. Just very more in the vein of like Venom and Onslaught. If you like the first three Venom albums, and also like the Onslaught's debut album Power from Hell, you're gonna dig this album. Of course, everything's just raw, very demo sounding, but I love that. It just adds to its charm. It's just filthy, dirty British thrash that shows no fucking compromise. Just my favorite when it comes to that sort of British thrash sound. Just a killer album from start to finish. Love it. An album that has not even been reissued, actually. But it's a very relatively easy to get album if you were looking into. This album I definitely know was shown. It was shown by Scott Waters, but again, one of my favorite artists, and one of those I can't help myself from not showing. That's, of course, is Motorhead with Rock and Roll. Just, to me, this was the very first Motorhead album I ever showed. Actually, no, it was. This is the album, to me, that started it all. Not the first Motorhead I ever listened to. I think the first one that I was exposed to was actually through the WWE with wrestler Triple H. However, and of course, the song Ace of Spades being played on like the Tony Hawk game. One of them, I can't remember which one. But still, this was the first one I ever bought. And it just brings back a lot of memories for me. It's very sentimental in many ways. And I can't even say a whole lot about it because whatever has been said has already been said. I think it's an underrated Motorhead album. Because it's my first one, I think it's very criminally underrated. Anyone that usually talks about Motorhead usually don't rank this one as high as much. But for me, I always love this album. It's just it's Motorhead. What is not there to like? It's just straight up, no bullshit, hard and heavy rock and roll. There were never many, Lemmy never considered his band metal, but he always had that edge that really pretty much resonated with the metal guys, and it was a good album. Alright, coming up here, finally the last vinyl only here, because I don't own a lot of vinyl that was released in 1987, but this is one of my favorite albums from this band. That's, of course, is Raising Fear from Armored Saint. And this was the last sound, though, for guitar player Dave Pritchard, who, of course, sadly died after this sound. And it was like, I want to say cancer, but I think it was like either pneumonia or something like that. And the last sound, man, to me, his last one, probably one of his best, definitely. Great riffs on this album, some great guitar work. Definitely, they're less commercial sounding albums, actually, and they really weren't going for like they were kind of were going with the first two albums, like March of the Saints, which that album was produced by the producer who produced Kiss's Creatures of the Night, and with that album you kind of got a bit of that feel. But on here, he does do engineering for the album, but it doesn't nearly sound much like March of the Saint. It's a very dark album in a way, and to me, some of my favorites on here is like, I love the title track, ripping fast song. I think kind of them remembering where they kind of started with that debut EP. Just a great track, love it. Other one here, like Human Vulture, fucking great track. It's probably one of the darkest songs on the sound because it's about cannibalism, which is so unusual for this kind of type of metal, which is just straight up heavy metal with almost a bit of a power metal feel at times. Very similar this time to like Heretic or Metal Church. kind of going for that kind of sound, and they went with the track like Human Vulture, and it's got one of the best guitar licks. I love that intro to it. I just love that guitar riff to it, but the whole lyrics doesn't really fit almost some of that imagery. It's very dark. Again, like I said, it's about cannibalism. Very odd, but in a way, it just means that the band were not going for a pure commercial appeal. And if that artwork doesn't say anything about what is about to expected on this album, then I don't know what the hell's even to say after that. But of course, it's got a cover, though, of Lynyrd Skynyrd's Saturday Night Special. Though, kind of, they just do a rocking version of it, but still, most of them is a bit on the heavy side. So, but all the way through, I love it. Alright, these last two here. The band's playing in the background is, of course, his Obsession, but it's not the album. It's, of course, his Methods of Madness, and just a killer album. I've already done a review for it, so I don't need to say anything more about it. It's just a killer album from all the way through. Some great guitar playing. Killer singing, of course, from Michael Viscera. Just a solid album from start to finish. Love it. And the next one, one of my top favorite albums, of course, from this year for sure. Reign of Terror by Wild Dogs, based out of Portland, Oregon. This was their debut for, at the time, singer Michael Furlong, who, of course, was doing mostly AOR stuff, but this album is a straight-up metal album. Very more similar to, like, Judas Priest or kind of like Painkiller. Very much just straight-up speed power metal with a lot of killer guitar work. Of course, it has drummer Dean Castronovo on here, and just some fine drum work from the guy. Of course, best known for later on playing like Journey. But again, there's solid drum work, solid guitar playing. It's heavy, it's fast, it's got some great melodies here and there. It's melodic. Just got a lot of great tracks here. I love it from start to finish. The top favorite album for sure. That's about it. That was all the 19 albums I showed. Again, congratulations on reaching 2,000 subs. This was a long video, of course. So, with that, hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you enjoyed some of these picks. Anyways, if you've heard most of these albums, or have not, definitely just leave your comments down below. This is Heavy Thrasher Sam out. And I'll see you again later. Take care.